Welcome back to class. Today we shall be talking on referencing. That means cell referencing, worksheet referencing, and workbook referencing. And when we are talking about cell referencing, it's telling us about knowing the exact thing that each cell specified, knowing what each cell contains. If you want to know whatever thing that is written in a cell, and we have been using this cell referencing since the beginning of our work. For example, when you take your mouse to your column A2, on my formula bar, it tells me that there is a figure 20 on the A2, and you see it in the name box that tells me it's A2. If I come here, it's empty in my formula bar, that means there is nothing there. But if I should initiate a formula, as we have been taught in the previous class, A2 to C2, you will see. When you see this 408, how did I get my 408? For you to know the answer, your cell referencing will tell you what that 408 contains. Click on it. It's going to tell you that its formula was initiated on column D2. That is why we have our 408. But if I should take my mouse to column C2, it will just tell me ordinary figure. That means I'm the one that inputs it. That is just your cell referencing. Now, talking about the range of cells, it's like picking off your cell from a column to another column, from a row to another row, just as I've done in the beginning. Look at this column A2 to A5. When I click on it, A2, A3, A4 and A5. So you click from the beginning to the end. This is your cell range. It picks from A2 to A5. Now, by the time you want to input your formula, that is why we use our cell range for our formula. Bracket open. A2, and you put your column to A5. You are going to see that it's going to highlight from your A2 to your A5, telling you this is the range of what you want to sum. By the time you close your bracket and you enter, so your cell range is picking from A2 to A5. Go back to your A6 to indicate for you. You will see it here that tells you it's from A2 through to A5. The same thing you can pick from A2 to B to C. This is our cell range. I have selected everything that is there. If I want to enter a formula, maybe to sum everything together, I will just select it, select from here and to here. Do you see? It's selected from my A2 through to C5. That A2 to C5 is our cell range. And by the time you close your bracket, do you see it very clearly? Then it enters. By the time you come here, your formula bar is going to reference that cell for you. What happened to H27 is going to tell you your formula went from A2 to C5, from here down to here, by picking everything together. I believe we understand. Now, when in time we are talking about worksheet referencing, I'm working on sheet 1. I have some data on my sheet 2. I want to calculate my column B on sheet 2, but I want the answer to be on sheet 1. How will I do it? I need that answer on my E6, but I need to pick this data here. I don't need to come here and be writing and be doing anything. What will I go? Go back to your sheet 1, initiate your formula, open your formula down. Then, where you have your data is your sheet 2. Just navigate to your sheet 2 and select the range you want to do what you want to add. Close your bracket and end your formula. It will take you back to your sheet 1. How do I get 193? Go back to the 193. Your formula bar is going to explain for you that you have picked your data from sheet 2 of column B1 to B5. For you to be sure, go back to your sheet 2 and see column B1 to B5. The summation will be what? 193. How do I know? You have your status bar. Just come down here, you will see your status bar. Sum, it says 193. Average is 38.6 and count is 5. Go back to your sheet 1. Is the sum 193? Yes, that means it's correct. Initiate your formula equals average. Open your bracket to initiate. Go to your sheet 2. I'm still using that same column. Select, end your formula there and enter. It will give you. Let's go back to our sheet 2. Do we get the answer? Yes. You will see the average here. And if you are not also sure, come back here, select it to an empty space. That means I want my answer here. You can use it equals average. Open your bracket, B1 to B6, close your bracket, 38.6. Definitely my answer is correct on my sheet 1. Using our cell references for our worksheet enable us to import another data entirely into our current sheet and giving it another calculation. That is very good. Then we are also having what we call referencing of our workbook. Working with a workbook in another workbook. This is a workbook I have saved with sales, as you could see on our title bar. SALES sales workbook. It has been saved as a workbook. Let me open another workbook entirely. Book 5. You can see the title bar here. Book 5. I want to import a formula. I want to import a data from that workbook, maybe from A1 to A2, and I need my answer in my current workbook. You don't need to open your workbook before you get it. It's just a simple instruction. Equals sum. Open your brackets. Then with a rectangular bracket again. This rectangular bracket tells us that we want to go to another workbook entirely. The name you use to save your workbook, don't forget, I use SALES to save, and Excel do come with this format, XLS, XLSX. Then you close with your rectangular bracket again. I'm having sheet 1, exclamation mark. Then you now save A1 to A5. If there is anything like that on your workbook of that sales, it's going to add the column of A1 to A5 on our sales workbook and give us the answer, which is 105. For you to be sure of yourself, try to open your workbook of sales. I said you should add A1 to A5. A1 to A5. What do we have? Our sum is what? 105. Definitely, my workbook referencing is very, very correct. How will you know that your workbook referencing is correct? Go back to the answer. It will tell you what happens to that column. You could see it told me that I import my formula from sales of the previous workbook, and on sheet 1, A1 to A5. That is our workbook references. This formula is being used if you have another data in another workbook entirely that you want to use and you don't want to be importing. You can easily do that. And the last one we shall be talking today is our circular reference. This circular reference returns our value to 0. Don't make a mistake by doing it. That means initiating a formula in the same cell. This is cell A4. I still want to initiate my formula in the cell A4. That is what is meant by circular reference. C equals A4 multiplied by 2. It will give me an option. What happened? Circular reference warning. That means one or more contains more circular reference, and it's going to return your answer to 0 because a cell cannot multiply its own value. So, do you see? It turned to 0. But if I should come here also, equals A1 plus 2. What happened? It turned to 0 because you are using the particular cell to give your calculation, and it's going to return your value to be 0. By the time you click on it, your cell reference is going to tell you that you are multiplying the cell with another number. And this is all about our cell referencing. Try as much as possible to lay your hands on anyone, and if you have any difficulties, just drop a comment in the section box.